Welcome into the Michael Jordan episode of the Boys Collective, episode number 23, right here on 105.3 The Fan. Of course, my name is Kevin Gray, alongside Super Bowl winning scout and 1/4 of the G-Bag Nation, Bryan Broaddus, on a victory Friday for the Dallas Cowboys as they get the 27-17 win over the New Orleans Saints. Bryan, how we doing? How we feeling on this Friday?
You know what? Had a long day yesterday of doing radio. I had my own show, as you mentioned, the G-Bag Nation, and then Cowboys pre and post game show. But anytime you could get out of New Orleans with a win, I think you have to be elated. I think you have to have a lot of energy coming out of there. But you and I, for the next 30 minutes, will probably talk about some things that went good and some things that didn't go so well.
Well, the good is the Dallas Cowboys moved to 8-4. They had lost 3 out of their last 4. They go into a hostile environment with a lot of adversity, and they're able to overcome it in a lot of different ways to beat New Orleans for the first time in the Superdome since 2009. That's how long it's been since the Cowboys have been able to get a win in New Orleans. Make sure you subscribe to 105 Through the Fan here on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 105 Through the Fan. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. You can find Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Broaddus. Let's jump into our Cowboys Saints game recap. The Dallas Cowboys get a 27-17 win over the New Orleans Saints. Taysom Hill throws 3 interceptions in the final 6 minutes and 32 seconds of the game to help the Dallas Cowboys be able to escape with the win. Dak Prescott goes 26 of 40 for 238 yards and a touchdown on a beautiful touchdown pass to Michael Gallup on the right side and back of the end zone there. Let's start with how this Dallas Cowboys offense looked against Dennis Allen's defense. We said coming into the game that this defense, one of the best rushing defenses on the NFL, was third in the NFL coming into the game in terms of rushing yards allowed. But at times, it felt like the play calling, whether it be Kellen Moore doing some different things that we haven't seen him do over the last few weeks, or a lack of just overall offensive execution. Talk to me about what you felt like was from a play calling standpoint and an overall offensive execution standpoint that really either troubled you or you said, hey, maybe this is something that we can try to figure out better going forward here for this team.
Yeah, KG. I mean, you and I have been talking about this for a few episodes about the ability to run the football. And it wasn't going to be easy against New Orleans. You mentioned the environment. Snap counts are a problem in that place, hearing, making calls, trying to communicate from the center all the way to the tackles, to the tight ends. Those things are tough in those environments. We saw it in your hometown of Kansas City, with how, the Cowboys struggled with that. And, I felt for the most part, though, there were some times where, that was tested in this game. And, the thing that I appreciate the most about Kellen Moore, and myself and Ori Timken were watching the game together in the studio, and I'm like, man, just run the ball on the edge, try and get the ball outside. And, these defenses, the Cowboys they've played teams that have had really good down personnel and with a really good Mike linebacker. And, and that's the problem when you try to run the ball, but you try and run the ball straight ahead. It's not easy to get movement, secure down linemen, and then also secure a Mike linebacker that can really, really run and is physical at the point of attack. And finally, Kellen Moore started to work the edge in the long touchdown, the toss sweep. It's like he took his thumb off his play card where he had it covered, where it said run game, where it said outside plays. It's like he moved his thumb and started. I think Ari counted, they had 3 plays that went to the edge for 71 yards. Okay, 58 of it was a long run, but it was better than what they were doing. So I appreciated that Kellen Moore said, okay, we need to try and get the ball to the edge here. And he took advantage of Pollard. It's like they were able to get a block in space. Dalton Schultz had been problems, got a block. They got the guards up, the tackles up. And, next thing you know, they trapped the Saints inside. And now here's Pollard going up the sidelines. And again, that's one play. But then there were a couple others. So I appreciated the fact that he just didn't continually bang his head against the wall. The problem I did have, though, you got to a 4-minute situation or the end of that football game, and it went first down, 5-yard run, edge again, 5-yard run, I believe. And then you went pass, and then you're off the field, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute now.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a lead here, man. You know, you need to try and like milk this clock. And, you know, this is the problem that we run into, KG. It's that, is Dak checking out of run plays, or is Kellen Moore just not calling run plays? You know, that's where, you know, that's the question that we need to now ask is, or, you know, and Jerry Jones the other day was talking, whoa, we were 60% run, going to be 60%, you know, run heavy, And you're like going, oh, okay, well then why aren't you not running those plays? Is it the quarterback? Is it the OC? Is it the game? I mean, again, I appreciate Kellen Moore, you know, at least trying to run the ball on the edge there at the end and having some success. I don't appreciate him the way he play called in the last 5 minutes of that game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though the defense had Taysom Hill's number the last 6 minutes, as you mentioned in that game, it still was a game that could have gone either way.
You
saw one play go 70 yards. You know, I mean, that right there, you're going, whoa. That could have happened 2 series ago. That could have happened, you know, maybe you relax a little bit. But yeah, this Cowboy offense, it's not, you know, we talk about the continuity along the line.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like they have that cohesiveness with this group. The play caller's a little off, you know, and your running back isn't exactly healthy. There's just so many factors in really why the offense is the offense in the way it is right now. And, you know, I mean, you have a victory now to figure it out. You could go back and self-scout and say, okay, these times where we really, really struggled, why do we struggle so much? Why do we have so many 3 and outs now? Where the first 6, 7, 8 games, there weren't as many 3 and outs. Now you're having these alarming 3 and outs. And I know my answer here is like really long, and I apologize, but there's a lot of things to unpack here for the Dallas Cowboys offensively. Yes. It's not just, oh, the O-line's bad, the quarterback sucks, the running back's banged up. No, there's a lot of things that you can kind of go to. And I say the quarterback sucks. I don't mean that he's I'm just saying that, you know, if that's
he hasn't been playing well as of late.
If that's one of the things you're pointing at, you know, I'd say, man, there is a litany of things you have to go through about this offense.
As I've watched this team since the bye week, you know, they had the, you know, really nice win on the road against the Patriots, you know, had the bye week, you know, obviously Dak was dealing with, you know, the calf injury. You thought once he came back, you know, this offense would continue to hum the way it was, you know, prior to, you know, the bye week, but I can't put my finger on it, but something is off, whether it be the lack of creativity, whether it's, you know, pre-snap trying to stress defenses, whether there's, you know, a quarterback maybe trying to press and maybe do too much by getting and checking out of certain play calls that has him trying to push things down the field that aren't necessarily there. I don't know what's going on, but I think they need this 10 days or so to really recalibrate and go back and say, what were the things that were making us effective? How are we able to have the kind of running game? We'll say, Kevin, look, the running back isn't healthy right now. There's some truth to that, obviously, but there are certain things from a creativity standpoint that I think that they can still figure out that can accentuate what they do have in terms of Tony Pollard, his ability to get on the edge. Now you have your full complement of receivers back. There are a lot of different things I think that they can do to get back to some of what we thought was arguably the best offense in the NFL. I mean, statistically, they were the best offense in the NFL, you know, through 6-7 weeks, you know, of the season. It's just what we've seen hasn't been the same offense. And I wonder from your standpoint as a scout, is there something physically that teams are doing to attack these receivers more? Are they trying to make sure that they're putting more stress on this offensive line, knowing that the running game isn't being as effective? What do you feel like defenses have been doing the last, you know, few weeks to say, hey, we're going to try to take, you know, receivers out, or try to, what do you feel like defenses are doing that is different these days?
I mean, I think initially KG had teams like Denver played press man coverage and challenged these receivers to get off the block, or to get off the press and then get into routes. we have Amari Cooper on our show, the G-Bag Nation, every Thursday at 4:30. And Amari said, yeah, the Denver game, he goes, CD's ankle was busted up. He couldn't really run.
Mm-hmm.
I really couldn't run against Denver because of the hamstring stuff that I was dealing with. That was a problem. He goes, I could see if you want to play press man on us and we can't separate, yeah, that's a great blueprint to beat us. Kansas City played the same way, challenged the receivers. There were some struggles. I mean, the Raiders, there were some struggles. I just think the thing with this offense, I don't think the health of the offense is particularly good right now at some key spots. I don't think it's particularly great. I know these guys are coming back at wide receiver, but Amari Cooper was really a shell of himself yesterday. Amari Cooper makes 2 catches, one of them for 41 yards and the other one for 0 yards. But just having him out there, I think, meant a lot to that football team. Michael Gallup now coming back, with CD from the concussion, him missing a couple of games. I mean, there were some things that were really not very good for this football team health-wise. And I think that's going to take some time. I do. I think that's these 10 days that you mentioned, I think, Ezekiel Elliott getting healthy. I think let's not try and gloss over it. And I know we talked about this the other day on our show, and I'm sorry again, folks, I'm bouncing around, but I'm trying to give you some answers here. They didn't have either one of their offensive line coaches in that game last night.
Right.
Let's not act like that. Oh, well, by the way, let's just take our offensive line coaches out of here and go play against a team that's pretty good in the front 7 and try and make adjustments along the way. That as bad as New Orleans was beat up, you're missing key components of your offense with your coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
And say what you want about Mike McCarthy, maybe not standing there, maybe him clicking over and telling Kellen, hey, run the ball to the edge here. Let's see if we could get something on the outside. There are components to sideline management, to game management, to health of your team. There's so many things, I think, with this offense. And I think you're absolutely right. This staff has 20 some odd coaches. You need to sit down the next 10 days and figure out what the situation is with the self-scout. Break down all your third down runs or second down runs or first down runs. Break down all your intermediate passes. Break down your red zone. See where you're at. Take these next couple of days and try and kind of figure out, is it the overall health of this team and the coaching staff, or is it just we're not good enough when we play teams that have an aggressive front, that are big up front, and they play press coverage on us on the outside? You need to figure out that, because teams are looking at your tape. They're looking at your tape and they're saying, oh, wow, they don't handle press coverage very well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is it because they're beat up, or they just don't handle press coverage very well? So, yeah, there's a lot of soul searching, but it's easier to find answers when you've won. Mm-hmm. When you've lost, then it becomes like Mike McCarthy likes to talk about, the red ass situation, where everybody's like, oh,
tend to overcoach maybe a little
that.
bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So defensively, I thought, for this Cowboys team, look, you got a couple of sacks, 6 tackles for loss. You have 4 interceptions. Like I said, 3 of those coming in the last 6 minutes and 32 seconds of this game. But we have to start with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons now 10 sacks on the year, tied for 8th in the NFL. He continues to play extremely well. Him and DeMarcus Lawrence, got to give credit to DeMarcus Lawrence coming back from the missing last several weeks, obviously with the broken foot. I thought he came in, especially the very first series of the game, really set a tone about what he was trying to do to create pressure, on the quarterback. And I'm sure you noticed too, the first, I think it was the first play or two of the game, Lawrence was lined up a little more in the interior with Parsons out on the edge a little bit.
Right.
Is that something that we could potentially see going forward, even with the return of Randy Gregory, Lawrence moving more toward the inside a little bit for this team?
Yeah, that's kind of the things that we've talked about. That's where this thing's going. I mean, I know on our show with, Gavin and Jeff and Lucius has been out this week, but we've talked about that. Where do you see Micah Parsons fitting in? And I think where you see Micah Parsons fitting in is if they're going to use him as an edge rusher, and especially in nickel, they're going to kick Tank Lawrence inside and let him be a defensive tackle and play like that free technique. you're saying, oh, well, wait, Bryan, he's really a small guy. Well, in a pass rush, if you put him on the outside shoulder of the guard and you're making the tackle have to block Micah Parsons, that guard's not going to get any help. So it's about Tank Lawrence winning one-on-one with a guard on his outside shoulder, actually putting him closer to the ball too, which I think is a very good thing. I'll say this too. I think having Randy Gregory back is no doubt going to help this team for a bigger reason. They have a problem at linebacker with Leighton Vander Esch. And I think Leighton Vander Esch is in a situation right now where injuries have robbed him of his mobility, his ability to turn, his ability to burst, his ability to adjust and make plays. He looks not very good in space. So what's going to happen now is you got your normal defensive lineman down, and now it's going to allow Micah Parsons to play more of a linebacker role with Keanu Neal or with Jaron Curse or whoever you want to put in that nickel linebacker or dime linebacker role down there. So, yeah, I just feel like that, that was going to be all along. That was the plan for me. Kick Tank inside, rush Parsons off the edge. And you don't have to do it every single snap, but the snaps in that game, one of the big reasons you won that game yesterday is you made Taysom Hill throw that ball 41 times with a busted hand. I mean, that just shows you what Sean Payton must think about Simeon, his other quarterback. He was not going to go, but here's Taysom Hill. To his credit, sure, I'll take Taysom Hill running the ball for 100 yards. If you tell me he's going to have to throw it 41 other times, that's a victory for me. That was a big win for Dan Quinn and those guys, making him have to pass the ball that much.
I will say one of the few criticisms that I had of the defense that overall carried this offense against the Saints on Thursday night. I thought the undisciplined nature at times when it came to the design runs and the run game with Taysom Hill, I was a little surprised by, because Taysom Hill's game isn't as a passer. His ability is to be able to use his legs and be able to make things happen, whether it be on the move, throwing the ball, or just running the ball in general. And I thought at times that defense was a little undisciplined in terms of some of the design stuff there.
That's what the Saints do to you with Taysom Hill. It is, but you've got to know. And the problem that the Cowboys have is they do lack some physicality up front at times. And maybe you get that back. Maybe you get that back with Tank now coming back full time.
Hopefully Gallimore coming back soon.
Gallimore, You're a team. You're a team with Osa Odighizuwa and Armstrong and Tank, and you're a team that gets up the field. I mean, you're the Rod Marinelli special. Hey, we're going to play the run on the way to the pass.
Yeah,
and they lack some physicality. I mean, they lack some physicality other than Parsons and Curse and maybe Keanu Neal a little bit, but their front seven is not the most physical group there is. And you saw that last night when they play a little bit of a smaller, and you're a basketball guy, so you understand, you go small, sometimes you get beat up. And Taysom Hill taking a snap, taking a drop step, letting things develop, and then powering ahead, that's a bad offense for the Dallas Cowboys to have to deal with, because they don't always handle down blocks well. They don't handle pullers well. They don't handle double teams well at the point of attack. And so that's a problem. If Taysom Hill was allowed in that football game, my biggest fear, KG, as we talked about it on Wednesday, was that it was going to be, and the game is starting to play out that way. It was, the 10-7, 13-10, it was that game.
Let them hang around,
a field goal. And it was right Aaron Andrews said it at halftime. Sean Payton was happy with the way his team had played. I mean, they were in that game. I was worried about second half. It's going to be the Taysom Hill show of just hammering the Dallas Cowboys. And the fact that Sean called some kind of a questionable pass plays that actually helped. And then the Cowboys got a break with the blindside block penalty and stuff like that.
Which was awful, by the way.
Yeah,
it was awful.
I mean, there were some awful calls, but then again, Dak Prescott threw an interception. He got smashed in the face.
That was missed.
I was telling people that's a wash. That's a wash right there. They took them off the field after a 12-yard gain. and they made their series impossible to convert, and you threw interception because you got smashed in the face.
Mm-hmm.
So there was bad calls both ways. And we know that now. If you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, you know there are going to be bad calls in the games both ways.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, I just think defensively, it just, with Leighton Vander Esch, you lose for his size and stuff. There's not the physicality there anymore. He can't take on blocks and help.
Shed blocks. He can't do it. Yeah.
Fighting blocks, and everybody's fighting blocks, and you got guys like defensive linemen in your lap, and you're trying to get those guys off, and you're trying to get to the ball, and next thing you know, it's a 7-yard gain. They ran 3 straight plays where it was like 4, 7, 8, 24. It was just, that's the problem that the Cowboys, I do worry about a team that's just going to physically say, you're not good enough. Denver did it to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not good enough to play the run, and we're going to make you pay for that. And, the one thing the Cowboys could do is they can rush the passer and they can get their hands on footballs.
They can't do that.
That's their strength on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Rush the passer, get their hands on footballs. They don't tackle particularly well. I really don't know what Diggs was trying to do on that long run.
I have no idea either. Just tackle the guy at some point. It's the end of the game. Get the guy on the ground. They don't have any timeouts. Make them use as much clock as you can. It's not important. You've got all the turnovers you need. Don't hammer the ball. Go for the tackle. Sometimes they do stuff on defense. I scratch my head, but man, that, like I say, making Taysom Hill throw the ball 41 times was a huge play and a huge part of that game yesterday. And at times, my man Trayvon Diggs employs the Deion Sanders strategy of tackling, make business decisions. You're right, exactly. The Cowboys 4 interceptions in the win against the Saints, are the most in a single game in franchise history since 2010, when they did it at Indianapolis. Additionally, Micah Parsons' 5 consecutive games with the sack is the longest such streak in Cowboys history since DeMarcus Lawrence had a sack in 7 straight games back in 2017. Still some numbers and some history there made by the Cowboys last night. What's weird about this is, we get ready to close here, as important of a win as it was, you moved to 8-4. You didn't have your head coach. Dan Quinn does a yeoman's job being able to help this defense really overcome a lot of things in this game to really be able to handle their business. I evaluate this team, Bryan, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. I evaluate this team in the lens of, can I see this team in an NFC Championship game? Can I see this team in a Super Bowl? It's not just about wins and losses when you get this deep into the season, given the expectations of how this team was playing earlier, to give us ideas that, hey, maybe this is a real Super Bowl contender. Has this team's performance over the last 3-4 weeks changed the way that you have felt about them? Or do you say, hey, look, we got to get guys healthy. We'll see and reevaluate this over the next 5 games, especially knowing that they're divisional games coming up against Washington, Philadelphia and New York, and these kinds of games?
Yeah, I think there's so many flawed teams. And we had Joe Buck on the pregame show last night, and I asked Joe the question. I'm like, you see all these teams, and he goes, every time you want to like somebody, something happens to them. They go and they get beat, or they don't look as good. And I think the Cowboys are in the boat with everybody else. And I don't mean that to be a cop-out answer. I really honestly believe they're capable of playing football. They really, really are. But they're also capable of having penalties, dropping passes, missing balls, tackles, those things. They're capable. They need to figure this out. They need to really what's going on their offensive line. They need to figure out the situation with what's going on with the left guard situation. Is now that you have Tyron Smith back at left tackle mean that you could put Connor Williams back in at guard and you can maybe run the ball better? Or are you going to worry about the penalties some more? Or, there are things that, and I hate to say this, we're in week 13 and we're still trying to figure some things out, but I think there's a lot of teams out there that are still trying to figure things out too. So I can't say that they're any better or any worse than the Green Bay Packers, the Arizona Cardinals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can't say that, because they're capable Like all those other teams that I just mentioned are capable teams too, but they have their flaws as well. And I just hate for the Cowboys. They have too many flaws at times that they need to take care of. But I have hope that the offense find their offensive line. They're running. The say play well, but passes that were it just made good plays. I mean, this played the ball pretty well a couple of different times. That pass he threw to Gallup, the touchdown, 1 yard touchdown, you're not going to see a prettier pass, whether it's 90 yards or 1 yard. That was a well thrown ball, and so my hope is that they can pull these things together defensively. Like I said, as long as they make teams throw the ball, they've always got a chance because they can make plays on the ball and they get a pass rush. So I know that's a long way of answering your question again, like I tend to do on the show every week, but I feel like they're just as good as the top 4 teams in the NFC right now. They can play with, we'll see. They're going to play Arizona here in a few weeks. You'll probably know a lot about your football team that particular day at AT&T Stadium.
Well, a long 10 days for this Cowboys team to regroup. They get to 8-4 on the season with a 27-17 win over the New Orleans Saints to still be 4th right now in the NFC playoff picture as virtue of, if the season were to end today, winners of the NFC East. We'll see how the Cowboys progress as we get ready for them to take on the Washington football team, as they are in the middle of a 3-game road stretch right now that sees them going to Washington in the nation's capital here in about 10 days or so. Bryan, as always, appreciate the time. Looking forward to all of your coverage on this team throughout the week on the G-Bag Nation right here on 105 through the Fan. Make sure you follow Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Broaddus. You can follow me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. This has been episode number 23 of the Boys Collective. Cowboys defeat the Saints 27-17 in the Superdome. Bryan, thanks for the time as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, KG. Enjoy your time off now here.
Appreciate it.